There was a decade when New York City went from one of the most dangerous places in America to the cultural capital of the world, and nothing has come close since. We are counting down 10 forces behind that transformation, from the music and fashion that conquered the globe to the single shift that changed everything. Let's start with number 10, in a city where nobody was staring at a screen. In the 10th place, the city buzzed with a kind of human energy that is almost impossible to imagine today. In the early 1990s, fewer than 5% of New Yorkers carried a mobile phone, unless you count the brick-sized Nokia 2110, which was more of a status symbol than a practical tool. Internet cafes did not even appear in SoHo until 1996, and most people still relied on payphones, over 30,000 of them scattered across the city. Without screens to hide behind, daily life played out face-to-face. Flyers covered lampposts. Chance encounters sparked on every corner, and every block felt alive with possibility. This pre-digital moment set the stage for the decade's magic, where the city's pulse was measured in footsteps, laughter, and spontaneous street conversations. Number 9. Parks and public spaces in New York City came roaring back to life. Central Park, once avoided after dark, saw its annual visitors more than double, reaching 25 million by 1998, thanks to a wave of restoration projects and a dramatic drop in crime. The Central Park Conservancy poured resources into reviving lawns, playgrounds, and pathways, making the park a destination for families, concerts, and festivals. Meanwhile, Washington Square Park buzzed with musicians, chess players, and artists, reclaiming its role as a stage for the city's creative spirit. Across the boroughs, over 500 community gardens turned vacant lots into green sanctuaries, inviting neighbors to gather and reconnect outdoors. This revival stitched the city's social fabric together, transforming neglected spaces into vibrant hubs where New Yorkers could breathe, play, and belong again. 8th place belongs to a sports era that electrified every corner of New York. The 1994 Knicks made it to the NBA Finals, and for weeks, the city pulsed with playoff fever. Block parties spilled into the streets, and TV ratings soared as fans crowded around screens in bars and bodegas. Just as that buzz faded, the Yankees launched a dynasty, capturing 4 World Series titles between 1996 and 1999. The 1996 Victory Parade drew 2 million people to the Canyon of Heroes, turning Lower Manhattan into a sea of blue and white. Jersey sales exploded, and subway cars filled with chanting fans, blurring lines between neighborhoods. In these moments, sports became a citywide ritual, binding millions of New Yorkers into one roaring, hopeful crowd. Number 7. The subway in the 1990s was both a lifeline and a daily test of patience. On August 5, 1990, the fare jumped to $1.15, a price that inspired roughly 231,000 New Yorkers a day to simply hop the turnstiles instead. MTA audits pegged fare evasion near 20%, and the system itself was a wild ride: dimly lit cars, graffiti-splashed walls, and the constant screech of brakes. Yet, the chaos built character. The subway was the city's great equalizer, moving club kids, Wall Street suits, and everyone in between. By the mid-90s, lighting upgrades and a slow rebound in ridership signaled change. But the grit of those years gave New York its kinetic backbone, fueling nights out, chance encounters, and a sense that anything could happen between stations. Number 6, the city's nightlife in the 1990s was a world unto itself, edgy, unpredictable, and bursting with invention. Limelight, a Gothic church-turned club in Chelsea, packed in up to 2,500 revelers a night, with VIPs slipping down a slide from the balcony, while the main floor pulsed with dancers in wild, homemade outfits. Over at Tunnel, a former freight depot, Sunday parties drew crowds topping 3,000, all moving to beats that echoed through rooms lined with actual train tracks. Club USA on 47th Street took spectacle to new heights, installing a giant indoor slide that whisked partygoers between floors. Entry wasn't about money. It was about attitude, style, and knowing the right doorman's code. Inside, fashion rules changed by the hour, and promoters like Peter Gatien and Michael Alig turned each night into a living art piece. Police crackdowns and tabloid headlines only added to the thrill, making every night feel like a gamble and a performance. These clubs became incubators for trends and a magnet for anyone chasing the city's electric, after-hours energy, an alchemy that no velvet rope today can replicate. Number 5. The shifting face of SoHo and Williamsburg captured a city in the midst of reinvention. In SoHo, artist lofts gave way to a tidal wave of retail between 1992 and 1996, as storefront occupancy soared and luxury brands pushed rents to new highs, surging from around $35 to nearly $65 per square foot in just a few years. Williamsburg followed a similar arc by the late 1990s, with retail vacancy dropping from an estimated 28% to just 9% as former warehouses transformed into lofts, galleries, and bars. These rapid changes didn't just redraw the map, they altered the city's daily visuals, replacing empty lots and faded murals with boutique windows and sidewalk crowds. The energy of these neighborhoods spilled into fashion and music, turning once gritty blocks into canvases for the decade's creative explosion. Number 4. Fashion in the 1990s in New York was more than just clothing, it was a language. Baggy jeans hung low over Timberland boots, and oversized tees were the unofficial uniform from Harlem to Queens. A Bulls number 23 jersey was not just about Michael Jordan. It was a passport to the hottest clubs and a signal of street credibility, with sales hitting $100 million in 1996 alone. Timberland's urban sales tripled between 1990 and 1995 as the boots went from construction sites to hip-hop videos overnight. Brands like FUBU and Tommy Hilfiger exploded, blurring the line between sidewalk and runway. Getting past the velvet rope sometimes depended on your sneakers or how you wore your hat. In a city obsessed with reinvention, even your outfit could open doors or get you bounced. As the saying went, if you could pull off yellow Timberlands with a Bulls jersey, you were probably doing something right. Number 3. The city's soundtrack shifted as the East Coast hip-hop renaissance exploded from New York's streets and radio waves. The notorious B.I.G. released Ready to Die in 1994, selling 6 million copies and turning Brooklyn stories into global anthems. Nas's Illmatic landed the same year, certified platinum and hailed for its razor-sharp lyricism. Jay-Z hustled his way from the Marcy Projects to the launch of Rockefeller Records, releasing Reasonable Doubt in 1996 and building a legacy that would soon stretch far beyond the boroughs. Busta Rhymes, with his wild energy and rapid-fire delivery, broke out with The Coming and kept the city's pulse racing. But before these names dominated the charts, their demos spun late at night on Stretch Armstrong and Bobito's legendary WKCR radio show. Over 300 unsigned tracks aired between 1990 and 1998, giving raw talent a shot at stardom. This era did not just change music, it shaped fashion, language, and the way the world saw New York. Hip-hop's golden age made the city's grit sound like possibility, exporting its attitude to every corner of the globe. Number 2. New York's magic in the 1990s was powered by a tension you could feel in your bones, a city suspended between grit and opportunity. Nowhere was this more vivid than Times Square, where, in 1990, more than 40 adult theaters and peep shows lined the blocks, and the air buzzed with danger and possibility. Yet, as crime held its grip, a wave of change began to sweep through. By 1995, Disney signed a lease on the New Amsterdam Theater, signaling a dramatic shift. Zoning reforms and targeted closures shrank adult venues to fewer than 10 by the decade's end, while pedestrian counts soared by 70%. This was not just about cleaning up a neighborhood. It was about the psychological charge that came from living on the edge of chaos and renewal. That push and pull, decay giving way to reinvention, set the city's creative engine on overdrive, making risk and ambition feel inseparable from daily life. And finally, in first place, the most dramatic transformation of 1990s New York came from a single, staggering fact. The city's murder rate collapsed by nearly 70% over the decade. In 1990, New Yorkers faced 2,245 homicides, a number that haunted headlines and shaped daily life. By 1999, that figure had plummeted to just 671, marking one of the steepest urban crime declines ever recorded in America. This wasn't a slow drift. The change was visible year by year as the city shed its reputation for chaos and fear. The launch of CompStat in September 1994, weekly meetings where NYPD brass pored over crime maps and grilled precinct commanders, helped drive a 25% drop in murders in just 2 years. Theories about why the crime wave broke are still debated. Some credit new policing tactics, others point to economic shifts or the fading crack epidemic. But the numbers are undeniable. Streets that once emptied at dusk filled with families, musicians, and late-night wanderers. The magic of 1990s New York, the energy, the risk, the sense that anything could happen, was only possible because the city reclaimed its safety, unlocking a new era of possibility for everyone who called it home. Across all these moments, one pattern stands out. New York's magic in the 1990s came from tension between risk and renewal, grit and glamour. The city thrived on friction, not perfection. That balance fueled a cultural explosion still unmatched. In New York City, transformation is not nostalgia, it is the city's true superpower.